holy brothers and sisters! Today was the 24th of TAMUZ, and in the Kitzur Likutei Moharan, today's lesson will be called Shortsighted Shoes. When a person sits down to talk about another person, this is like Rosh Hashanah, the day of judgment, since in effect the person is sitting in judgment on someone else. A person must be extremely wary of doing this, and he must look very closely at himself to see if it is fitting to judge someone else, for judgment belongs to God. Deuteronomy 1:17. Our sages of blessed memory spoke in this vein when they said, "Do not judge your fellow man until you have reached his place," Avos 2:4. And who can know and reach the place of his fellow man? Only God alone can do this, since he is the place of the world, and the world is not his place. Bereshit Rabbah 68:9. Every person has a place in God. God alone is able to reach the place of each and every person and to judge everyone favorably. The famous joke is, why should you never judge a person until you've walked a mile in his shoes? Because then you're already a mile away and you've got his shoes. Whenever we decide to judge others, God judges us. Stop bringing negative judgments upon ourselves. We should never talk about others just for purely self-serving, selfishly saving reasons. It's not worth scrutinizing others, and be careful just so we don't end up in the hot seat. A person who merits to bind himself to all the Jewish souls by means of all the rectifications discussed in this lesson also becomes the place of the world, and he too is able to celebrate Rosh Hashanah and to judge every person favorably. We can connect ourselves to infinity through ultimate good and then share in the positivity that we bestow on others. Rosh Hashanah is a great kindness from God, for how could we possibly lift our faces to ask God for atonement? Therefore, God did a kindness for us with the Day of Judgment, and He ordained that the Day of Judgment, Rosh Hashanah, should fall out on the day of the new moon. For then God Himself, so to speak, experiences regret and asks for forgiveness, as in, bring atonement for me for making the moon smaller, Chulin 60b, since the diminution of the moon is the source of all sins. Consequently, we are not ashamed to regret our misdeeds and to ask atonement for them on the Day of Judgment, since on that day, God too feels regret and asks for forgiveness. We do not know what it means for God to feel regret and ask forgiveness, but He gives us feelings, emotions, speech, and actions here in this world for us to be able to relate on some level to what God actually does. Everything in this world is an analogy and a representation of what actually is going on in the higher, absolutely spiritual realms. The shofar represents the concept of fear and awe of God. Furthermore, it is associated with the influx of prophetic inspiration with prayer when it is redeemed from its exile, and with the way that all the vegetation of the fields channels its power back into a person's prayers, which is a prerequisite for being able to celebrate Rosh Hashanah in the manner just described. We can connect with all of nature and physicality around us to help us infuse and uplift our prayers. This is why it is recommended, if safe and possible, to do Hispodedus out in the forests and fields, to unify the elements, plants, and animal life all together in the praise and service of God. As always, thank you so much for learning together. If you enjoyed this lesson, please remember to like, comment, share, and borrow. And please God, we'll learn again tomorrow.